financial institutions that we would partner with to create wealth, that have partnered with individuals to create wealth, they don't like us, apparently. There's something different about us. We're pulling up recent lawsuits in the last 10 years. So, okay, so those who control the money, we don't get treated the same. That's fact. So if the banking system is against you, or if the banking system is compromised, isn't that kind of one of the first lines of defense to being able to build something? Live from Flexwork Studios. Hello, Black America. We are back. I'm excited to talk with you guys. I got my brother Curtis Cheatham on my side. We're about to talk to you guys about a world that used to exist. We want to take you into this world. I'm going to share some things I learned when I got my real estate license that I really didn't understand them at the time, but they're very relevant right now. Very relevant. We're going to take you into the greatness of Black America. How great it was. How we built cities all throughout America, ran them, did commerce, brought culture and arts, great education. We were doing great. And we're going to talk about how each one of these cities was systemically destroyed. Not 200 years ago, not 100 years ago. Our parents and grandparents were there. See, those of you who are questioning why we are petitioning the United States government and the European and the United Nations for reparations against what was done not just to our ancestors, but why are we talking about it? Why are you saying, oh, well, y'all wasn't slaves? Well, what you're going to hear and what we're about to lay out for you is going to let you know that it's never stopped. And you're going to have to give us a really good reason to rebuild here. That's the whole thing. You're going to have to, I need somebody to help me. Give me a really good reason why, if everything we built has been destroyed, why we should do it again. Why we should put the effort in. Why should we not diversify? So I got my brother Curtis Cheatham on my left. I got super visionary, visual savant. If you've seen the episode, you know what he's doing. I couldn't do this without these guys, and I'm happy to have Curtis. I'm happy to be dialoguing with you more, brother. Amen. How you feeling?
I feel great. I mean, it's been an up and down week, but it's good to be here today. Absolutely, I feel great.
At this point, we have a new president-elect.
Of course, we
have a new president-elect.
Yes.
So we'll lay out some things that we're going to talk about when we want, because we're going to keep him accountable to what he said he's going to do. But for sure, we have a new president-elect. Times have shifted. Things are changing. And again, it never goes away from our agenda.
Our work continues.
Come on, our work continues.
Absolutely.
So thank you for everybody who's listening. Thank you to people who are watching on YouTube, watching on all our social media platforms. Listen where you listen, watch where you watch. Let's get into this one. Curtis. So when you just said something right before we started the show, and it echoes kind of how I feel. You said, a lot of these cities you didn't know about.
Absolutely.
You didn't know that we had built these. I didn't either. I knew I had heard about Tulsa, but what went through your mind when you started seeing all of these cities we're about to lay out that literally we had built prosperous, safe, just wonderful Black communities that, were really hubs for what could have been future growth for us. What did you feel when you kind of saw this entire list?
Well, it was a lot of feelings. First of all, I became aware of Black Wall Street, which is, of course, the the preeminent black community that we talk about, early 1900s, destroyed back in 1921. There are people, to your point, there are at least a few, maybe only one or two left, people who actually survived that attack, who are still living today. So the argument that what do you deserve reparations for? The bottom line is that although you quasi freed us from enslavement, with the exception of, being in prison, which we could talk about, a whole prison industrial system, but we have been fought against every step of the way. And in spite of it, there's a long list of successful black communities, thriving black communities that were meeting their own needs, that were insular in that, they didn't have to go to other people to get what they needed. They were able to take care of their needs within their own community. Absolutely. Yeah. And call it jealousy, call it supremacy, or
fear, whatever.
Fear, racism, all of those things probably play some part. But the bottom line is that the effect of those policies are the same throughout the country, is that they lead to the detriment and destruction of many of these communities that were thriving before. And the other thing that I was struck by, I tended to think of these as Southern phenomenon. You think of Tulsa, Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma's out in the West, but it's got kind of a Texas type of mentality. So it's really the same type of mentality. But when I look at some of these names, these are not places that you would consider.
Yeah, we got DC
to be between right, not in the Bible Belt, big cities, L.A. All these places that are huge, northern in a lot of cases, metropolitan areas where black communities were thriving as part of the Great Migration that brought black people out of the South to the northern cities. They began to thrive working in factories in places like Detroit. There's a place in Minnesota on here. I'm like, 100%. Are you kidding me?
And look. Let's just I'm gonna give you a short rundown of each of these cities so you can understand. You could do your own research because I'm sure these cities have been well written about and documented. But you got, of course, Greenwood District, Tulsa, which we know as Black Wall Street, thriving black economic hub in the early 1900s. In 1921, a racially motivated massacre led to the destruction of businesses, homes, and lives. Hundreds were killed, communities were devastated, setting back economic growth for centuries. Bronzeville, Chicago. Bronzeville, this is Chicago, y'all. So the Chicago we see today, all we hear about is the new Chicago. We don't hear about the Chicago. Look, during the Great Migration, Bronzeville became a cultural and economic center for black Americans. By the 1950s, urban renewal projects and redlining policies restricted access to investment, leading to the area's economic decline. When I got my real estate license in 2013, I had to learn about, fair housing and discrimination. And so, it's in our test to understand redlining and to understand blockbusting, the things that have happened, white flight, we had to learn all of these things. Specific, though, in this particular case, you might not understand what redlining is. So when the banks literally wanted to not lend, they would just draw a map and literally draw lines through, don't lend here.
Risky. These are risky places.
Yeah.
Right.
For no reason, not because of credit, not because, and I'm talking an area. We're not talking about individual underwriting. We're not going to give a person a loan who has this credit score. We're talking about, we're going to make sure people who live in this zip code cannot get loans.
The making of Newark's riot actually begins a full generation before the riots actually hit.
I think we often mistakenly believe that it's natural that inner cities be problematic and the suburbs be pristine in the United States. But it wasn't really so much God or nature that decided that. It's human decision.
Mainly through federal housing transportation policy, Newark was destined to become a city mainly of poor people, mainly of black people, where more and more upwardly mobile whites would be encouraged to actually leave the city.
After World War II, and certainly throughout the 50s, the whole image of the suburbs was pushed. You haven't arrived until you get to the suburbs, until you have your backyard, until you have your front yard, and maybe 2 cars. Suburban tracts were subsidized by the federal government, and the highways were subsidized by the federal government.
1945 until really into the 70s, the suburbs were white territory thanks to government action. It was not just white flight, it was also white people taking advantage who wouldn't of very advantageous lending policies. These things had not been available before the war to a wide segment of Americans. They were not available to black people.
You had the bank redlining under Roosevelt. Actually created maps where they literally drew red lines around a block with the presence of just one black person or one Jewish person would be enough to literally redline a block on the map, which meant there would be no mortgages given on those blocks.
Newark is written off by the people who are making these decisions. So they're really saying that Newark is not a good place for the federal government to invest. The suburbs are.
Block busting. Real estate developers busted up blocks because one black fellow might move in, scare tactics to get whites to sell cheap and then sell high to the blacks who moved in. The pitch was, hey, these colored people are moving in. You better sell now before your house value goes all the way down. And you get these people just to get scared. They'd sell their house low. But then those blacks who moved in weren't getting any bank loans. They wouldn't get any insurance on those homes. So that led to conditions which deterioration of much of the wood stick housing that Newark had. So it was, disgusting but fascinating from an economic point of view. When I grew up in the 50s, I can recall in my neighborhood, there were always places where people can get pretty decent jobs and establish yourself, have some kind of stability economically. Throughout the 50s, many of these companies, they moved to southern New Jersey or southern United States until finally, we're at the point where, companies just, global monopoly capitalism just will take it wherever, they can make the most money.
So here are a bunch of black folks up here looking for jobs in the industrial sector. Suddenly they got here and there was nothing here. It was like an old bait and switch routine.
All of those led to conditions that resulted in poor housing, poor health care, less job opportunities, which were why people felt disenfranchised, they were destabilized economically, and all of those things were what led to Newark in 67, or Detroit, or Watts.
So we got Fourth Ward, Houston, Texas, historically home to the freedmen's town. Fourth Ward was a refuge for freed black people post-Civil War in the mid-20th century. We got Rondo, St. Paul, Minnesota. Rondo, vibrant black neighborhood in the early mid-1900s. Construction of Interstate Highway 94 in the 1960s split the community, displacing hundreds and dismantling the social and economic networks that held it together. Put a highway right through our city.
Does it? They do it so often.
It's when I tell you, it's probably 13 cities on here that have been were prosperous communities, like in the last 80 to 90 years. Half of them, I think, they put a highway through them.
See, they got more sophisticated. So, Tulsa, Oklahoma.
We can't burn stuff down.
Right. We can't bring the planes in and drop bombs on cities anymore, right? So we had to figure
They're on
something
to
out.
us.
So we can't just do that anymore. So we have to get more sophisticated in the way that we destroy black communities. And they've gotten real fancy with it. They use big words like eminent domain.
Like they did North.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We don't take your house.
What eminent domain is, if you don't know, is when the government basically says,
we're taking your
property. We're going to give you some money for it. It'll be a fair
market
price.
value. Yeah.
But Yeah, but you got to figure somewhere out to consider that in the context of today's market. If I could get a good chunk of money for my house, it's appreciated over the years. But I sell, but now I got to go find somewhere else to live,
That's
and there's nowhere else to live. Right? You can't. You still got to pay those bills. So.
Eminent domain is what we learned about too in real estate, and again, I'm just seeing these things of how I didn't really realize how they affected us until now that we're talking about these things, because I don't know. When they were teaching me, Deshone, make sure when you're dealing with any real estate client, you are aware of these things, because these are the things that you could lose your license, and it's like, okay, wow. Why is it that serious? Well, it's that serious because these policies were used to destroy entire communities. And when you start to consider if these things are still happening, then you start talking about big lawsuits, or a big lawsuit is reparations. That's really what it is. It's you're liable for these things. So what is... Listen, as we continue, because we have a lot more towns to talk about, I want to ask, what was the restitution for the destruction of these cities? We already know, just on the basis of fact, not opinion, on the basis of fact, that the cities that we've laid out and the cities we're continuing to lay out in this episode were government sanctioned, destroyed. Like the government had a hand in it. The government allowed certain things to happen that the cities never recovered from. And so when we look and say, okay, all right, redlining changed the history of real estate law in this country. Eminent domain, these things, but let's take discriminatory policy. Redlining itself. Who got a check because they were redlined? Who got a check because they had to suffer the economic loss of redlining in their cities? Who got a check?
Nobody.
If you can't show me someone who got a check, you update a law. So you update the law. I guarantee you, if there were white communities, if there were any other Indian, Hispanic communities that had literally been redlined to where they could not build a community at all, they had a great community, and then people come, because watch this. When you got a good community, shoot, you know how long I've been looking for a great black community that's just healthy that I can move to? Atlanta ain't my style.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I done looked at the Delawares. It's like, all right, I scoped this stuff out. So imagine having a city where it's just like, yo, everything is going on over there. They got clubs, they got jazz, they got restaurants, they got culture. People want to move there. But check this out. You can't get a loan, bruh. What you mean I can't get a loan, bro? I got a 750 credit score.
Exactly.
Sorry.
I've been working the same job for 15 years,
This is what it means in real life.
Right.
What it means in real, we are bringing you to what that means today. This stuff happened. The name of this episode is Our Parents and Grandparents Were There. They were there. We had great communities that people wanted to move to. Yo, I can't get the Bronzeville. Yo, why you ain't coming out here, man? You still living over there in that area, man. Everything going on over here. Man, they denied me the loan. I don't know. What you mean they denied you the loan? I don't know. My credit's good. They said I can't get a loan there. This is what happened. And I want to know who got a check for this. Because the law was updated. So you acknowledge it happened.
Absolutely.
If you updated law, that means you acknowledge it happened.
Well, it certainly did happen. And we can delve into this and kind of weave a little bit of a better picture of how these things are all connected, but let's do that on the other side of the segment.
Yeah, we got a lot more to talk about. We'll be right back.
America. Can take these syllables, then tie them in a bow. Ancestors made it off the boat. Swear I need my reparations. He been dreaming way too long. That struggle I done made it from. Just because my skin golden tone, you know they think I'm dumb. Good and will and through the street. Diamonds in my pack for lead. Mentals of a country boy. Hustle like an athlete. Missing sleep. Still hear the screams of the slaves. Land breath from it lips. Blood covered. Hood and fame. Yeah. Boxing full of money. Ain't no bank accounts. Don't need a loan. Whole school.
Okay, so we started talking about a couple towns, but let's go. But wait, there's more though. There's more. We got Harlem. Harlem became the epicenter of black culture in the 1920s with the Harlem Renaissance. The 1950s, redlining and disinvestment severely impacted its growth. Despite gentrification pressures in recent years, Harlem's cultural legacy endures. So the cultural legacy of Harlem is there, but what was being built, it was kind of like when we look at what I love to find out, Curtis, you're a little older than us. When you hear about the Harlem Renaissance and kind of, are there any, or does it, I want to know, does it mean something different to you and people in your age group versus what it looks like, what it means to us? We're 20 years apart. So, I mean, just probably call it one generation, but did you when you were young, were they talking about these things that had recently happened, or had it just been already wiped away from, like?
In my experience, Harlem, for example, I remember going to Harlem as a kid. Always loved going over there. Go to sit down at Sylvia's, maybe have a meal or something, or just kind of walking around, seeing people that look like you. It was always a great experience, and never felt. Now let's face it, New York City,
Sure.
The time when I grew up, New York wasn't always nice, but always felt good about going in Harlem. Now, the fact is today you can go to Harlem, and another piece of the puzzle that we haven't really introduced yet is gentrification.
Right.
So what ends up happening is we drive the property values down. Yeah. Crime. They don't properly police our communities, so crime goes up. We, you see abandoned buildings. The city doesn't rip them down. They just leave them there, and they look kind of blighted. Yep. And then under the umbrella of urban renewal, now they want to knock those down, and they want to build new housing. But now they build new housing, and the people that come in to build in, they price it so that the people who can afford to come into that community now don't look like the people who've traditionally lived there, who built up that community. And now you've got these, the yuppies, I guess, is that still a thing? Yuppies?
I think so. They're still out there. They're still out there.
It's the young business professionals, the young and generally white folks, so let's just call it like it is, who are now taking advantage of these newly developed communities. And even though the rental or mortgage rates in that community have risen to price out the traditional tenants or the traditional people who occupied that space, it's still a bargain for them to live in Harlem as opposed to getting a place in Lower Manhattan or something like that. So it works out great for them.
There was a very strong abolitionist community in the Lower Hill. $8,000 people and several hundred businesses in that area, all basically pushed out to create this modern wonder, which is the way a lot of people talk about it. But the way folks in the neighborhood looked at it, it was just a destruction of a very vibrant and historic part of the neighborhood. A lot of property was rental property owned by other folks. A lot of the housing was demolished, and people just kind of went where they could. So there was a tremendous amount of displacement.
And then they come and they appropriate like the culture, or they try and subdue the culture. So now, you if you've ever been to Harlem, they have these parties all block parties. Even just walking down 125th Street on a Saturday can seem like a party. You got the stores blasting their music. You've got the people playing maybe music on the streets.
Absolutely.
You got the street vendors cooking, and it's a thriving kind of environment.
Absolutely.
Now you've got these people who have moved in who, don't necessarily look like the people who live there, their music is on kind of late.
Absolutely.
It's 11 o'clock.
The culture. It's a culture. It's different. Yeah.
So they don't appreciate
Our culture.
the culture that
doesn't
was
match.
already there.
Yep.
So now, we've got this phenomenon, which I don't necessarily, the Karens. These are people who, don't understand the culture and think they're somehow entitled to have you succumb to their
100%.
sensibilities.
And that it's this the extreme, like they're territorial to the highest degree, like and it's from a lot of what they come from. They come from just stepping on areas and making the areas theirs, and kind of forgetting about who was there and not always caring about who was there. But you see, I always thought gentrification was missed opportunity, and I was wrong, because I know what some people will say. Well, if other people came in and developed the buildings and developed the neighborhood, and the people who lived there didn't see the opportunity to do that, then that's their loss. And if the lending system was fair, that would be true. If the access to capital was there, that would be true. But the fact is, we recently had Bank of America, JP Morgan, and Wells Fargo settle discrimination lawsuits. Still. And we'll pull them up. If we can't get the loan at scale, I don't mean me not being able to get a loan. I mean when they see that things are happening. This is why I want to know. You got to give me a reason to not be focused. We need a reason to build here again, because it's not when we're just trying to build that they destroy us. Mm-hmm. I'm not worried about going into East Orange, New Jersey, and we buy a block and we develop a block and it becomes a great block. They're not going to destroy a great block.
Right.
My worry is when Newark is completely transformed, Trenton is completely transformed, Camden completely transformed, all of these, Detroit completely transformed, and black people own it. That's where the destruction comes in. If we got around, see, it's kind of like you don't know until you do it. You don't know what's going to happen until you do it, because these communities that we're mentioning throughout the show, they were built, and then they got to a level where they were built so much, so beautifully, other people wanted to come there. So now states are looking and saying, wait, all right, we got people relocating from our state to go over there to Paradise Valley in Detroit, Michigan. We got people going to North Nashville. All right, we got people leaving. What's going on? This is affected. So they know these statistics, and then they can see the growth in those cities, and that's where the destruction comes. How are you going to prove to us that if we built it again, you wouldn't come and destroy it again, when you are still settling discriminatory lawsuits?
I believe out in California, in Los Angeles, if I'm, it's across the country for us, but they just recently, I believe, settled a lawsuit for the descendants of a black community out there where their land had been taken. And they actually got some sort of reparatory justice.
He was right. That was for that.
Nice.
Just for that particular community, where their land was taken.
Nice.
Do you know that Central Park used to be a thriving black community? I don't even think that's on our list.
New York?
And Central Park, New York, is built over a black community. So this isn't something that's far out in the left. There's towns, they made a whole movie about Rosewood, which isn't even on our list,
right,
in Florida. So
wow,
we know, we took a list, and I'm like, there's a lot of names on this list, but there's a lot of names that still aren't on this list.
See, they want us to think y'all just had one community, Tulsa. That's it. Y'all had Tulsa, and then y'all go ahead and just mourn y'all one community y'all had, and that's just that's mass media showing us what they wanted us to believe, and not that's just not factual. So when we consider Greenwood District, when we consider Bronzeville, Sweet Auburn, that's Atlanta, Georgia, Harlem, New York, Haiti, Durham, North Carolina, U Street Corridor in Washington, D.C., Jackson Ward in Richmond, Virginia, Overtown, Miami, Florida. Pull all of these up. North Nashville, Tennessee, 4th Ward, Houston, Texas, Rondo, St. Paul, Minnesota, Paradise Valley and Black Bottom, Detroit, Michigan, Wilmington, North Carolina, not to mention the Rosewoods, not to mention the things that Central Park is on top of a black tent.
Yeah. Look it up. And then you add to that, there are towns, and I'll have to find this. There's actually towns that black communities that were just simply flooded over. Like
Lake Lanier.
There you go. That they just filled it in with water and submerged the entire town.
Hey.
It's like, it's kind of a microcosm of, or a micro version of the colonizing mindset. You get into a community, you see something that looks good. We talked about this, I think, the other day. You discover something that's already been occupied and put together. And yeah, these communities build up, and then we just find different ways, slicker ways to sort of take that away from, pull the rug from under these black communities. And it's a testament to our resilience as black people.
100%.
That we continue to build against all opposition.
Absolutely.
And the opposition is real, it's consistent, it's ongoing, it's current.
So let's bring some fact into this, okay? Because everything, watch this, we're here for solutions. But we must look. I've been seeing, after we launched the first couple episodes and we started getting just some initial traction, I could see that the heat from anti-reparations people is going to be on us. That's fine. So we need to start now having a conversation with the moderate people, with the people who they don't understand it, just as there were some things we didn't understand, and we are going to explain these things so that we know this is still happening. Again, like we said before, we're not talking to the extremists. They're going to be against us. But let's talk about, you heard, I just mentioned some things and people, you said these banks was discriminating. Is that true? Okay. Wells Fargo, 2012, mortgage lending discrimination. Wells Fargo agreed to a $175 million settlement with the U.S. Department of Justice over allegations of discriminatory lending practices that affected over, ready, 34,000 African American and Hispanic borrowers between 2004 and 2009. Now, what was happening in 2004? There was a lot of money being made in real estate. A lot of money. That was a time where the market was going up right before the crash of 2008. Now, depending on when you categorize the class. So basically, when the getting was good,
that was a good year for me.
Jokers went to get in.
Right.
Oh, yeah, everybody buying houses. You just made low. Oh, nah. Yeah, you don't qualify. Okay, that's fine. Let's continue to go with J.P. Morgan Chase. Racial discrimination settlement. Ready? 2017. What are the financial losses of us not being able to buy houses in 2017? What's the average appreciation from 2017 to now? That's what you owe these people. You settled a lawsuit. It's not just the fact that you settled the lawsuit. There's something called opportunity cost, which means had I been able to make that investment, what would I have made? So if I would have been able to, in 2017, buy a $300,000 house that would today be worth $500,000, my losses are $200,000 minimum. Minimum you owe me. So with that money, refinance or taking out or whatever, just a straight up basic, you owe me the losses. Bank of America, oh, this is just getting more and more recent. This is 2020. Why y'all want reparations? Y'all wasn't slaves.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue. Disability discrimination settlement. The bank agreed to pay $300,000 to resolve allegations that it denied mortgage and home equity loans to individuals with disabilities. I would like us to dig a little deeper and find out if those were, if the people with disabilities were black, or if not, that's fine, but let's go. We're not done. Just the year before, 2019, racial discrimination in hiring. Bank of America agreed to $4.2 million settlement with the U.S. Department of Labor over allegations of hiring discrimination against minorities and women. Maintenance of foreclosed homes. A federal court allowed a lawsuit to proceed against Bank of America alleging that it failed to maintain and market foreclosed houses in Black and Latino neighborhoods. Now, what ends up happening sometimes is they'll sit on these houses for a long time. You ever see a property in some of these communities and it stays vacant, like you said? You can't even buy it. You can't buy it. But they don't put it up. These properties are literally off-market properties. They're not being fined. There's no pressure on the find the landlord, find the owner, so we can keep these. So what happens is it's basically they wait for a window of opportunity. So they're allowed to sit there and have projects sit there, property sit there for 10, 15 years, vacant. And then soon as they see, now again, driving down the property values. Right. So everyone in our Black communities that own a house next to that abandoned building, your house is worth $50,000 less, $100,000 less because this abandoned building is on the corner. So now once everything starts to come in and these other people start buying and coming in, all of a sudden the building gets renewed. It's a beautiful building. And it's daggone more expensive than most people can afford.
Absolutely. Well, we can go into that because I would love to see what those banks' profits were in that same time period. Maybe we can find that out. And but we got to go take a quick break. Let's come back and discuss that.
Hello, Black America.
Since 2020, I've been showing people everything car dealers like the one I'm standing in front of don't want you to know about car buying. Things like you don't need a down payment to get a great deal, you don't need to be a great negotiator, and you definitely don't need to spend more than 30 minutes in a car dealership. I spent 14 years in the car business, 5 with Mercedes-Benz, 5 with General Motors, and I just released my new digital book, Cars from Home, 7 Steps to Saving Time, Money, and Avoiding Dealerships. It's already 5-star rated, and I want the entire Hello Black America audience to have a copy at 75% off. So go to carsfromhomebook.com, use promo code HBA as in Hello Black America, and don't forget to send me your success story.
The more you know, right?
Oh, my God.
The more you know.
Y'all are not ready for what you're about to see. So Curtis, when we're off, he said, Bank of America, a lot of these banks made a lot of money during slavery and having their ties in with slaves. So we did a little research, right? First thing that comes up, you ready? Historical ties to slavery for J.P. Morgan Chase. In 2005, J.P. Morgan Chase acknowledged that 2 of its predecessor banks, so a different name, had accepted enslaved individuals as collateral for loans, and upon default, took ownership of approximately 1,250 enslaved people. J.P. Morgan Chase, the person you got your money with, you got your money with them.
These are people that have directly benefited from the enslavement of Black people in America. And for all those who say, but we didn't have any slaves, and whatever kind of nonsense is being spewed, the banks that exist today that are continuing to perpetuate discriminatory practices against African Americans and have benefited directly from the enslavement of Black people. And nobody's ever gotten their check. Well, I mean, listen, a few people got checked.
And that's the thing. The settlement is, you see, a settlement is always...
It's a drop in the bucket.
That's it. You don't take me to trial, take the settlement.
Settlement only makes sense
if
you're making huge profits on the other end.
And that's what we have to consider. What money was made to have it be, okay, we could pay $200 million. If we made $8 billion, we're just throwing numbers out. It becomes a cost of doing business. It becomes, this is what we know. We're going to get a fine. We're going to get a lawsuit every now and then. It happens. But the money we make by robbing people is way more than the fines that we're going to pay. So again, you got to give us a reason. You have to give us a reason. If we've laid out towns, everything we built in the last 100 years has been destroyed. Government sanctioned. The government allowed it. We didn't get to rebuild Tulsa because the insurance companies would not pay. Normally, if your place gets burned down, bombed, naturally, you have insurance, so at least you can rebuild. The insurance companies would not pay.
Especially not when you're dead.
Yeah, well, yeah, in every way. In every way. I mean, think about, we have to look up, what all the insurances after Tulsa. Did people have life insurance that they couldn't get? Was no insurance company paying, or was it property insurance that wasn't paying?
That opens up a whole nother category of ways that black people, the selling of insurance in black communities and then not paying out. I mean, taking and collecting people's premiums for years and years and years. Then when they have to file a claim, they just never pay out and they just keep that money.
So here's the thing. Because what's the point? What is the point of us having this episode? The point is a couple things. To show everyone, to show the reparations advocates and the reparations naysayers and anti-reparations people that reparations is a case for today. And everyone from every generation who's alive today, you either in the United States, you either know someone who comes from people who had a hand in this, or you know someone who this was done to. So everyone is liable at this point. Everyone is. It's only like, what's the Kevin Bacon thing?
6 degrees.
6 degrees.
Yeah.
You're only 1 degree separated from somebody who either had discriminatory practices against them or helped participate in it. It's not. It's so. I really, as much as I love America, I need someone to explain to me so that I could wholeheartedly, in good faith, tell hello Black America and everyone who's going to listen to us that we should be building here in America exclusively. But it doesn't make sense to me. The financial institutions that we will partner with to create wealth, that have partnered with individuals to create wealth, they don't like us, apparently. There's something different about us. We're pulling up recent lawsuits in the last 10 years. So those who control the money, we don't get treated the same. That's fact. So if the banking system is against you, or if the banking system is compromised, isn't that kind of one of the first lines of defense to being able to build something?
The thing that you say there that's so curious is that the word is, these are systems that are, and that's where we get the term systemic racism. And that's what people need to make the connection is that all these things are really tied together, whether it be insurance, whether it be the whole redlining and gentrification things that we've been talking about as far as controlling housing. Mm-hmm. We haven't even brought into this the whole gerrymandering, which is refiguring districts to be favorable to you, whether either through racial or political means, where you kind of make these strange-looking maps that don't make sense, but this is your voting territory. And that's a way to either keep all Democrats or Republicans in one area, or it's along racial lines. These are all things that are connected. If you see them, if you lay them out, they are all part of a system that is conspiring to destroy these Black communities that we keep building over and over again.
You got to prove to us that this is not true. Again, our goal is to always come with facts here. We are not, we kind of leave our opinions are second. We are looking at the facts. We believe over the next several decades, we are going to build Black America. We're going to unite leaders from all races, but Black America is going to thrive. Black America is going to be incredible. I'm talking the best music, the best culture, some of the best food, safe, love, God fearing, and a lot of like when we start talking about, because the people who are going to build Black America have to have the right heart. So when we look at what's going to be built, security, governing, it's going to be beautiful. Why should we do it here? That's a real question. When we have a blank canvas, and not blank together, but I mean, Africa is waiting to partner with us. Africa is waiting for the diaspora to come back and partner. They've made every effort they can so far to let you know that what you heard was not true. That if you come back and you see that the government has it set up for you in certain nations, and we'll look at, the difference between Ghana and Kenya and Rwanda and Liberia, and let's look at kind of who's running these governments, and who's the most favorable, because I mean, we need to know who's basically in pocket.
Right.
We need to know that before we go over there. So the people who are in Africa, we need you letting us know who is in pocket, who's bought, where are the corrupt leaders. See, because when we need to know who's the leaders that are a threat to the systems they have. If there's a leader who you're like, hey, Deshone, Curtis, Kwan, you guys need to know this guy right here. This guy's running for president. This guy's he's the ambassador, whatever. That's the person you need to talk to. Then that's who we're going to talk to, because the opportunity to build over there and have it be destroyed is much slimmer. Like I don't see us going back to our tribes with DNA tests, so they absolutely know. So we know we're coming to our tribes. We know we're coming to hundreds of thousands and millions of people who share our DNA, and literally building everything there, building all tech, building bioengineering facilities, mining, construction, I'm talking multi-billion dollar industries, going and building it there, where we know once we build it, it's safe. Obviously, if we're partnering with people around the world in the global peace system, then that's, I mean, we'll need security, but this is all that comes into it. This is what comes into nation building. I don't know everything about it. None of us do, which is why we're going to be bringing people to build this together. But I need a reason to why we should put all the effort in to build it here.
You've got to face that question at some point. When, somebody once said, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. America has continued to show us who they are. They continue to try and thwart our progress at every step of the way. We just want to live. We just want to live in community. We just want to build. We want the same things you want at white America, right? We want our people to be safe. We want to be able to raise.
No, because that's when they think we want to take over.
But we just want to live.
We cannot see what Curtis just said. We want the same thing some white people want. Some white people are worried we want to take over, because that's what's in them. But not all whites.
That's projection.
That's it.
They're projecting what they have done onto us, and we have never shown ourselves to be that.
And what they would do.
Exactly.
If I was them, I'd be raising hell. You get what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So I know that there's revolutionaries coming and they're going to kill us. That's what in their mind, they're always worried. Look at Pharaoh and the in the Hebrews. Pharaoh's worried that the Hebrews are going to eventually, they're too big, too many of them. They might unite against us or unite with our enemies. They wasn't even thinking about that.
Right.
But it's just when you have a mind of conquest, like a lot of people who come from European culture do, they come from people who have a mind of conquest. You just have to acknowledge that. Now that's spilled over if that's your fear, but that's not our MO.
We've never shown. There is no evidence to support that we would do that.
No,
never done.
You don't see no brothers running in the white post office. This was my ancestors.
It's never happened.
Mowing everybody down. No,
it's never happened. And yet they keep trying to craft a narrative, or maybe it is just projection that they believe that we are going to do the same things, and we are. Who's the young rapper? Kendrick, right?
Yeah.
They not like us.
But
they're not like us.
But
and we're not like them. But the beauty of what we can bring that has been sorely missing here in America is the beauty of our tapestry.
Yes.
You know, the creativity, the music, the food.
Yeah.
You go to New Orleans, my hometown, the food is amazing, and it's because of the blend of the different diversities of spices and cultures that come together to make that city so much, such beauty.
Yeah.
You know, bring such value to those around it. And that's all we're trying to build here in America. But y'all refuse to allow us to be a part of that community, to enhance the whole.
Absolutely.
You know, y'all think we want to take away from, we just trying to build, we built America.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's just be clear about this. We built
actual
we
labor.
Physically
Actual
labored
labor.
to build everything in America. We have an invested stake in what goes on here. We built it. Literally.
But
our ancestors
it's like I
built
told my daughter, though, the slaves being free was never part of the plan.
Never at all.
That was never part of the plan.
Well, our humanity was never considered. When they said all men are created equal, they weren't thinking of men that look like any of us.
Correct.
Right? So that's kind of the hypocrisy that
wasn't
America
3/5 of man in the Constitution?
or
in some
it
document?
was written in a document, and that was about voting, and that was about not wanting the South to have.
So we had
more
to have
of a,
two. We had to have two people for every white person.
There you go.
There had to be two black people.
Basically.
So yeah, understood. So
that was about representation and voting, and the northern states not wanting to cede too much power to the southern states because of their population of slaves, or the enslaved people. So it's an ongoing thing. It's not, if you can't see this, it's because you don't want to see it.
100%.
Because
we just brought it. We just brought it very, very. And we're accomplishing our goal. Our goal was to make reparations a now conversation. So when we talk about Rep 2025, which is this national collaborative proposal that we are preparing to meet with Congress on what we'll call the Day of Accountability, when we can sit down with Congress and we can have leaders from all walks of life who have co-authored the Rep 2025 proposal, and we create this laundry list of things that we want to have a discussion with, that we believe will move the country forward and start to heal what has been done. And this will be a formal acknowledgement, because again, I'm asking who got a check. I'm not asking who got a check from a settlement. I'm asking who got a check for the damages. Who got a check not because, we got caught, so we had to pay this out. I'm talking the damages. The only lawsuit that I ever went through, they had to calculate how much money I lost by having to go through this event. And, that's what we're discussing here. And so we've done a great job of showing you that reparations is now. The people who have been discriminated against has been your parents, your grandparents. They were there. Our parents, one generation ago, were there. When all of these cities that we named earlier, from Greenwood down to Bronzeville, down to Wilmington, the Paradise Valley, Rondo, all of these cities were in our grandparents' lifetimes. So if our
Hello, Black America.
If our grandparents couldn't, because they were having their livelihoods taken from them, they didn't have the strength. And God, they fought through everything. I mean, the civil rights movement spurred them. We wonder why the civil rights movement came at such a time. But when you look at the timing of these cities being destroyed and the highways being put through these cities, they saw it back then. They saw what was happening. They knew when I tried to move over to North Nashville because my people were there. Oh, man, and they destroyed it and they put a highway through it. I don't know if that was Nashville. We'll see. We'll connect these. I'm just looking at this list. But every single one of these cities either had a highway put through it, either had redlining done, either had urban renewal projects done, or either had gentrification, or a combination of all of them. So they witnessed all of this. When we name these 50 things, that's why they said, we got to do something, y'all. We got to take a stand. So this is the birth of the civil rights movement, is what happens here, and it's still happening.
Hello, Black America. Hello, Black America.
Hello, Black America. Welcome back. We've been having just kind of an in-depth conversation. It's sort of pulling things all together as far as some of the things that we've seen from, we've been talking about redlining and gentrification, urban renewal,
Eminent
domain, how all these things have been used kind of in piecemeal rather, to keep Black people's communities in jeopardy.
To destroy them.
To destroy them. Absolutely. Now, one community that stands out to me that I love for our listeners to just really understand more is the Wilmington, North Carolina. At the time, largest community, period, in the state of North Carolina, largest city. But that was a community were Blacks and whites. Now, there was a thriving Black community, but they worked together with the white community. They co-governed, if you will. There was, representation from both sides. And, as always, there's some sort of story, some sort of rumor gets started, something happens. And I believe this is actually around election time. I forget the exact year, but it was based on during an election period. They ended up destroying that entire community because they wanted to take over the white power structure, wanted to take over. They didn't want to see people come together. Believe it or not, and we've started this off, we don't want a Black movement exclusively, right? We want to build with those who want to build with us. And we saw it in places like Wilmington, North Carolina. So this isn't just race-based necessarily. This is about people of commonality. The real
sounds like a good versus evil thing.
Well, it's a little bit more than that. It's more class in America. We've talked about that. The real politics of this nation is capitalism, right? And the people at the very top, the thing that they fear the most is if poor people or people who without economic means got together. Absolutely. That's what they don't want. That's what this whole racism thing is really about. If you're not confused, if you're confused about this, you shouldn't be, because it's about having those lower class white folks think that they are better than somebody, right? So that who are they better than? Those Black people, right? And by putting that barrier between them, keeps them from coming together and building together.
A new world.
America looks right. Building a new, with the input of Black people,
100%.
white people. That's what's going to build the best.
Because you get the best of all worlds. Yeah,
That's
all cultures.
That is just that simple. Every culture has something to add, but ours has been marginalized and diminished so much and tried to be held at bay so much. So the only time you get to see the beauty of the Black culture is when we build it ourselves. We're not excluding you. You're excluding yourself. You talked about white flight. It's not the fact that when we move into our communities that we're doing something that is terrible, that's detrimental to the community. You just made the choice that you didn't want to live next to people that look like us. And you self-segregate. Most white people today do not live in proximity to Black people. There's studies that have done this. 75% of white America has no relationship with anybody Black. It's
Shout out to the 25%.
Look it up. I'm sure we can get some numbers to show to the audience.
Yeah.
So that's the real
and you know what? It's on look, Black people who have not look. I was blessed when I went to high school. Once I went to high school, I was around a bunch of white people, Hispanic people, and from then on, I went to work on Fridays, and I started ever since I was a teenager, I was around all cultures. But I also was, from East Orange, New Jersey, which is pretty much predominantly Black, a few Hispanics, more Hispanic coming now. But I had a chance to be around great white people early.
There you go.
Early. And I find that our people who have never gotten out of Newark or never gotten out of Camden, you might have this thing where you can't be around a bunch of white people and be like, there's a problem with them. You just can't. Especially if you're around them in diverse societies. Now, if you go to a spot where it's no Black people at all, then you're going to say, okay, they're different here. But I'm talking about diverse communities like Wilmington, what you're speaking about, like Black and white people and Hispanic people. That was the school I went to. All lived together. Nobody was hey, we're better than you. It was literally just a mixed, diverse community. And one of the things that I can say is true about what you're saying is Black people did not thrive in these communities. So had these diverse communities today, if they were kind of seeing kind of a Black backbone, because you got a white backbone in these communities, and then you got a Hispanic backbone, like they have their own restaurants, you know what I'm saying? Like their own. But if you start seeing like, okay, I notice a lot of Black businesses coming up in these diverse towns, Bloomfield, West Orange, Montclair, a lot of Black businesses, and then next thing you know, there's Black culture that is being that is thriving there. Now we got a different issue. You get what I'm saying? Now we got a different issue. That's where the threat comes in. Y'all can stay here, be among us, but don't start thriving and doing well, potentially bringing more people, or potentially it's just something about us thriving that it just doesn't seem like they want it. Like you said, whether it's in our own communities or whether it's in diverse communities. Wilmington is a great example of a diverse community. They didn't want it.
You said something that just struck a chord. For example, take a restaurant opens up in our community. They love Black food.
Facts.
They've been eating it for years, right? Our ancestors cooked for your kids, for your families. They made things taste good that you might not have ever heard about before. So we take all of our goodness and we can serve it to you and you enjoy it. But if we're making money off of it,
right,
thriving off of it, now they don't like that so much. That's where the problem comes in. They don't want you to be on the same level as them.
Yeah, and I mean at scale. One, because somebody might say, "Yo, I know a dude. He own a restaurant here. He doing well." What y'all talking? We're talking about at scale. We're talking about 30, 40 restaurants that are owned. We're talking about. Do white people own one restaurant in the community?
Not at all.
They own all the pizza shops.
You can throw a stone and hit 10 Greek diners in the state of New Jersey. 100%.
So let's just look and let's we're going off facts here. We're not going off any emotions. So let's just look at the facts. When you look at even the most diverse communities like Wilmington,